Part 3 of A Grammar of the English Tongue, by Samuel Johnson. Read for the LibriVox Language Learning Collection, Volume 1. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information, or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Of derivation. That the English language may be more easily understood, it is necessary to inquire how its derivative words are deduced from their primitives, and how the primitives are borrowed from other languages. In this inquiry, I shall sometimes copy Dr. Wallace, and sometimes endeavor to supply his defects and rectify his errors. Nouns are derived from verbs. The thing implied in the verb, as done or produced, is commonly either the present of the verb, as to love, love, to fright, a fright, to fight, a fight, or the preterite of the verb, as to strike, I strick, or strook, a stroke. The action is the same with the participle present, as loving, frighting, fighting, striking. The agent, or person acting, is denoted by the syllable er added to the verb, as lover, frighter, striker. Substantives, adjectives, and sometimes other parts of speech are changed into verbs, in which case the vowel is often lengthened, or the consonant softened, as a house, to house, brass, to braise, glass, to glaze, grass, to graze, price, to prize, breath, to breathe, a fish, to fish, oil, to oil, further, to further, forward, to forward, hinder, to hinder. Sometimes the termination en is added, especially to adjectives, as haste, to hasten, length, to lengthen, strength, to strengthen, short, to shorten, fast, to fasten, white, to whiten, black, to blacken, hard, to harden, soft, to soften. From substantives are formed adjectives of plenty, by adding the termination y, as a louse, lousy, wealth, wealthy, health, healthy, might, mighty, worth, worthy, wit, witty, lust, lusty, water, watery, earth, earthy, wood, a wood, woody, air, airy, a heart, hearty, a hand, handy. From substantives are formed adjectives of plenty by adding the termination ful, denoting abundance, as joy, joyful, fruit, fruitful, youth, youthful, care, careful, use, useful, delight, delightful, plenty, plentiful, help, helpful. Sometimes, in almost the same sense, but with some kind of diminution thereof, the termination some is added, denoting something, or in some degree, as delight, delightsome, game, gamesome, irk, irksome, burden, burdensome, trouble, troublesome, light, lightsome, hand, handsome, alone, lonesome, toil, toilsome. On the contrary, the termination less added to substantives makes adjectives signifying want, as worthless, witless, heartless, joyless, careless, helpless. Thus comfort, comfortless, sap, sapless. Privation, or contrariety, is very often denoted by the participle un prefixed to many adjectives, or in before words derived from the Latin, as pleasant, unpleasant, wise, unwise, profitable, unprofitable, patient, impatient. Thus unworthy, unhealthy, unfruitful, unuseful, and many more. The original English privative is un, but as we often borrow from the Latin, or its descendants, words already signifying privation, as inefficacious, impious, indiscreet, the inseparable particles un and in have fallen into confusion, from which it is not easy to disentangle them. Un is prefixed to all words originally English, as untrue, untruth, untaught, unhandsome. Un is prefixed to all participles made privative adjectives, as unfeeling, unassisting, unaided, undelighted, unendeared. Un ought never to be prefixed to a participle present to mark a forbearance of action, as unsighing, but a privation of habit, as unpitying. Un is prefixed to most substantives which have an English termination, as unfertileness, unperfectness, which, if they have borrowed terminations, take in or im, as infertility, imperfection, uncivil, incivility, unactive, inactivity. In borrowing adjectives, if we receive them already compounded, it is usual to retain the particle prefixed, as indecent, inelegant, improper. But if we borrow the adjective and add the privative particle, we commonly prefix un, as unpolite, ungallant. The prepositive particles dis and mis, derived from the des and mes of the French, signify almost the same as un. Yet dis rather imports contrariety than privation, since it answers to the Latin preposition de. Mis insinuates some error, and for the most part may be rendered by the Latin words male or purpuram. To like, to dislike, honor, dishonor, to honor, to grace, to dishonor, to disgrace, to deign, to disdain, chance, hap, mischance, mishap, to take, to mistake, deed, misdeed, to use, to misuse, to employ, to misemploy, to apply, to misapply. Words derived from Latin written with de or dis retain the same signification, as distinguish, distinguo, detract, detraho, defame, defamo, detain, detenao. The termination ly added to substantives and sometimes to adjectives forms adjectives that import some kind of similitude or agreement, being formed by contraction of lick or like. A giant, giantly, giant-like, earth, earthly, heaven, heavenly, world, worldly, God, godly, good, goodly. The same termination ly, added to adjectives, forms adverbs of like signification, as beautiful, beautifully, sweet, sweetly, that is, in a beautiful manner, with some degree of sweetness. The termination ish added to adjectives imports diminution, and added to substantives imports similitude or tendency to a character, as green, greenish, white, whitish, soft, softish, a thief, thievish, a wolf, wolfish, a child, childish. We have forms of diminutives in substantives, though not frequent, as a hill, a hillock, a cock, a cockerel, a pike, a pickerel. This is a French termination. A goose, a gosling. This is a German termination. A lamb, a lambkin. A chick, a chicken. A man, a mannikin. A pipe, a pipkin. And thus Halkin, whence the patronymic Hawkins, Wilkin, Tomkin, and others. Yet still there is another form of diminution among the English, by lessening the sound itself, especially of vowels, as there is a form of augmenting them by enlarging or even lengthening it, and that sometimes not so much by change of the letters as of their pronunciation, as sup, sip, soup, sop, sippet, where, besides the extenuation of the vowel, there is added the French termination et, top, tip, spit, spout, babe, baby, booby, Greek, boupes. Great pronounced long, especially if with a stronger sound, great. Little pronounced long, leetle. Ting, tang, tong, imports a succession of smaller and then greater sounds, and so in jingle, jangle, tingle, tangle, and many other made words. Much, however, of this is arbitrary and fanciful, depending wholly on oral utterance, and therefore scarcely worthy the notice of Wallace. Of concrete adjectives are made abstract substantives, by adding the termination ness, and a few in hood or head, noting character or qualities, as white, whiteness, hard, hardness, great, greatness, skillful, skillfulness, unskillfulness, godhead, manhood, maidenhead, widowhood, knighthood, priesthood, likelihood, falsehood. There are other abstracts, partly derived from adjectives, and partly from verbs, which are formed by the addition of the termination th, a small change being sometimes made, as long, length, strong, strength, broad, breadth, wide, width, deep, depth, true, truth, warm, warmth, dear, dearth, slow, sloth, merry, mirth, heal, health, well, weal, wealth, dry, drought, young, youth, and so moon, month. Like these are some words derived from verbs: die, death, till, tilth, grow, growth, mow, later moth, after moth. Commonly spoken and written later: math after math, steal, stealth, bear, birth, rue, ruth, and probably earth, from to ear or plow, fly, flight, weigh, weight, fray, fright, draw, draft. These should rather be written flyth, fryth, only that custom will not suffer h to be twice repeated. The same form retain faith, spite, wreath, wrath, broth, froth, breath, sooth, worth, light, white, and the like, whose primitives are either entirely obsolete or seldom occur. Perhaps they are derived from fay or foy, spry, rye, reek, brew, mow, fry, bray, say, work. Some ending in ship imply an office, employment, or condition, as kingship, wardship, guardianship, partnership, stewardship, headship, lordship. Thus worship, that is, worth ship, whence worshipful, and to worship. Some few ending in dom, rick, wick, do especially denote dominion, at least state or condition, as kingdom, dukedom, earldom, princedom, popedom, Christendom, freedom, wisdom, whoredom, bishopric, bailiwick. ment and age are plainly French terminations, and are of the same import with us as among them, scarcely ever occurring, except in words derived from the French, as commandment, usage. There are in English often long trains of words allied by their meaning and derivation, as to beat, a bat, battoon, a battle, a beetle, a battledore, to batter, batter, a kind of glutinous composition for food, made by beating different bodies into one mass. All these are of similar signification, and perhaps derived from the Latin batuo. Thus, take, touch, tickle, tack, tackle, all imply a local conjunction from the Latin tango, tetigi, tactum. From two are formed twain, twice, 20, 12, twins, twine, twist, twirl, twig, twitch, twinge, between, betwixt, twilight, twibble. The following remarks, extracted from Wallace, are ingenious, but of more subtlety than solidity, and such as perhaps might in every language be enlarged without end. SN usually imply the nose, and what relates to it. From the Latin nasus are derived the French nez and the English nose, and nes, a promontory as projecting like a nose. But as if from the consonants ns taken from nasus, and transposed that they may the better correspond, SN denote nasus, and thence are derived many words that relate to the nose, as snout, sneeze, snore, snort, sneer, snicker, snot, snivel, snite, snuff, snuffle, snaffle, snarl, snudge. There is another SN which may perhaps be derived from the Latin sinuo, as snake, sneak, snail, snare, so likewise snap and snatch, snib, snub. BL imply a blast, as blow, blast, to blight, and metaphorically to blast one's reputation. Bleat, bleak, a bleak place, to look bleak, or weather-beaten. Black, blay, bleach, bluster, blurt, blister, blab, bladder, blue, blabber-lipped, blubber-cheeked, bloated, bloat-herrings, blast, blaze, to blow, that is, blossom, bloom, and perhaps blood and blush. In the native words of our tongue is to be found a great agreement between the letters and the thing signified, and therefore the sounds of the letters smaller, sharper, louder, closer, softer, stronger, clearer, more obscure, and more stridulous do very often intimate the like effects in things signified. Thus words that begin with str intimate the force and effect of the thing signified, as if probably derived from Greek stronimi, or strenuous, as strong, strength, strew, strike, streak, stroke, stripe, strive, strife, struggle, strout, strut, stretch, straight, strict, straight, that is narrow, distrain, stress, distress, string, strap, stream, streamer, strand, strip, stray, struggle, strange, stride, straddle. St in like manner implies strength, but in a less degree, so much only as is sufficient to preserve what has been already communicated, rather than acquire any new degree, as if it were derived from the Latin sto. For example, stand, stay, that is, to remain, or to prop, staff, stay, that is, to oppose, stop, to stuff, stifle, to stay, that is, to stop, a stay, that is, an obstacle, stick, stut, stutter, stammer, stagger, stickle, stick, stake, a sharp pail, and anything deposited at play, stock, stem, sting, to sting, stink, stitch, stud, stuncheon, stub, stubble, to stub up, stump, whence, stumble, stalk, to stalk, step, to stamp with the feet, whence to stamp, that is, to make an impression and a stamp, stow, to bestow, steward, or stoward, stead, steady, steadfast, stable, a stall, to stall, stool, stall, still, stall, stallage, stage, still, adjective, and still adverb, stale, stout, sturdy, stead, stoat, stallion, stiff, stark dead, to starve with hunger or cold, stone, steel, stern, stanch, to stanch blood, to stare, steep, steeple, stare, standard, a stated measure, stately. In all these, and perhaps some others, st denotes something firm and fixed. Thr imply a more violent degree of motion, as throw, thrust, throng, throb, through, threat, threaten, thrall, throws. Wr imply some sort of obliquity or distortion, as wry, to wreathe, to rest, wrestle, ring, wrong, wrench, wrangle, wrinkle, wrath, reek, rack, wretch, wrist, wrap. SW imply a silent agitation, or a softer kind of lateral motion, as sway, swag, to sway, swagger, swerve, sweat, sweep, swill, swim, swing, swift, sweet, switch, swinge. Nor is there much difference of sm in smooth, smug, smile, smirk, smite, which signifies the same as to strike, but is a softer word. Small, smell, smack, smother, smart. A smart blow properly signifies such a kind of stroke as with an originally silent motion, implied in sm, proceeds to a quick violence, denoted by ar suddenly ended, as is shown by t. Cl denote a kind of adhesion or tenacity, as in cleave, clay, cling, climb, clamor, clammy, clasp, to clip, to clinch, cloak, clog, close, to close, a clod, a clot, as a clot of blood, clouted cream, a clutter, a cluster. Sp imply a kind of dissipation or expansion, especially a quick one, particularly if there be an r, as if it were from spargo or separo. For example, spread, spring, sprig, sprout, sprinkle, split, splinter, spill, spit, sputter, spatter. Sl denote a kind of silent fall, or a less observable motion, as in slime, slide, slip, slipper, sly, slate, slit, slow, slack, slight, sling, slap. And so likewise ash in crash, rash, gash, flash, clash, lash, slash, plash, trash, indicate something acting more nimbly and sharply. But ush in crush, rush, gush, flush, blush, brush, hush, push, implies something as acting more obtusely and dully. Yet in both there is indicated a swift and sudden motion, not instantaneous, but gradual, by the continued sound sh. Thus in fling, sling, ding, swing, cling, sing, ring, sting, the tingling of the termination ng and the sharpness of the vowel I imply the continuation of a very slender motion or tremor, at length indeed vanishing, but not suddenly interrupted. But in tink, wink, sink, clink, chink, think, that end in a mute consonant, there is also indicated a sudden ending. End of Part 3 of A Grammar of the English Tongue, by Samuel Johnson. Read by Bill Borst.